Hey guys, how's it going today? I got a restring. This is a Richie Sambora standard Strat, and the strings are just toast on this thing. Let's restring this and set it up. Here we go. We've got this Richie Sambora down here. Now what we did is we called Fender customer service. And all you have to do is give them the serial number. And they told us that this is a Richie Sambora standard Stratocaster. This is the Artist Series. And it is an alder body. It has a maple neck with a modern C shape that has a satin polyurethane finish on it. Rosewood fingerboard, 9.5-inch radius on this guitar. 22 medium jumbo frets, 25.5-inch scale length, so it's that standard Stratocaster. Chrome hardware, locking nut. Medium ping standard cast sealed tuning machines. And the bridge, this thing has a Floyd Rose 2 double locking 2-point tremolo on it. So yeah, it's my job to restring this thing up. The pickups are kind of cool because it has two special designed single coil Strat pickups in the neck and in the middle, and then it's got a DiMarzio custom PAF Pro humbucker in the bridge position. And this is all Richie Sambora. This is all he wanted. He didn't want to go too crazy on his guitar. And he made a really nice guitar. The color is Lake Placid Blue. And yeah, pretty awesome guitar. When it came into the store, I told my customer, yeah, I'd love to restring this thing for you. So anyhow, here we go. Okay guys, so here it is. Another restring video for you. I don't do too many of these. Once every 1 or 2 a month I've been doing these, right? I know that Dave's World of Super Fun, whatever his channel is, super fun stuff. He's the king of the restring videos. So I watch his videos a lot. Dave's World of Fun Stuff, that's right. He's a Canadian, I think. And so when you're up in Canada, you need to stay inside most of the time. And I'm sure it's freezing cold up there right now. And so I kind of feel bad for him living up there in the cold. But you know what? Some people love it. And for him to think about being down here in Arizona, he's probably like, that dude is crazy. But the first thing I do is take the little locks off of here. And I'm just going to loosen these strings a little bit. These babies are dirty. Cool guitar, Richie Sambora. So of course when you think of Bon Jovi, you think of the song She's a Little Runaway. But you know what? Richie Sambora did not play the guitar solo on that first song. What was it? She's a Little Runaway. Richie Sambora did not play that. Tim Pierce played that lead. So I thought that was kind of neat. After hearing that solo for years and years, big part of my life was listening to Bon Jovi, and you know, everybody's girlfriend loved Bon Jovi. All the dudes were kind of like, I don't know, man. We were all kind of afraid to admit that we liked Bon Jovi. I know in 1987 when that Slippery When Wet album came out. And what was the song that was so good? Oh, You Give Love a Bad Name. I remember I broke my leg in 1987. I was doing air conditioning. And I fell off a ladder. And I broke my leg. and I was laying in the hospital with a broken leg and watching MTV, and that song, You Give Love a Bad Name, was #1. I remember sitting in the hospital listening to that, and I also remember listening to Whitesnake. Their big song, Here I Go Again. I think that was the one. But 87, man, that was a big year for the 80s hair metal rocker dudes. Yep, that was a big year. So there's other guys that do different rapping techniques when they string up a guitar. And, you know, they're all fine and good until you go and some poor guy has to change the strings again. And they're looped through there twice and all that kind of stuff. What a hassle. I usually do not do any other kind of a string wrap than just straight standard string wrap. Unless for some reason I'm got a Gibson, and then I'll do that Gibson wrap. Okay, you know, and a lot of times you don't want to take all the strings off of Floyd Rose at the same time. If your guitar's in tune and you don't want to mess with it too much, you just do one string at a time. You pull one string out, you put the new string in, you tune it back to pitch, and then you pull the next one out, because sometimes setting up these Floyd Roses are a real hassle. And it takes you a while to get them back in tune and to have the Floyd sitting there nice and flat and everything and the way they're supposed to be. There we go. And I've seen a lot of times where these babies get stripped out. And then a lot of times I'll just take some of this spray cleaner and I'll just kind of spray that stuff off there. Yep, those little bricks that lay in there, I call them bricks. But the little parts that lay down in there, let me lower this a little bit. There we go. Alright, so before I put the new strings on though, I want to have you guys take a look at this fretboard. So somebody really played this thing. Here we go. So we can get a good look at the condition of some of these frets and the amount of dirt that's on this thing. And I'm going to clean these up a little bit. Sorry about my camera work. Not the professional camera guy. So what I have is I got some of these lemon wipes. And they come in a sealed bag. And so you open one, then you try to you open one, you try to shove it back in here and keep them sealed up. So I do have some lemon wipes. But the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cloth and I'm just going to spray some of the Dunlop cleaner right on here. You don't want to use water because people are like, hey man, if you use water, then you're adding all that moisture into the wood, and moisture doesn't work very well by adding a bunch of moisture. You just don't want to do that. Although I remember seeing the video of some guy in Africa somewhere, and he literally cleaned a guitar off like he was washing his car. Remember that one where he took a bucket of soap and water? And so that's getting a lot of that off of there. And I'm going to give it one more squirt here and go over it one more time. Because there's a lot on here. And I like to do everything that I can do to make these things look brand new when I'm done messing with them. Richie Sambora. Wow. That's some dirty stuff going on there. It's looking pretty good. Alright, so here's another thing that I do. Let me get the camera a little bit closer here. Okay. Okay, not too bad. So what I do is I have these guards, and I'll show you how I kind of just clean the frets a little bit. Let me see what I have here. Alright. So what I have is just a little tiny piece of 800 grit wet sandpaper. And so I just keep the guard on there, and I just rub them by there a little bit. My reason for doing this is just to get the top layer of dirt off these frets. I don't want to rub these things hard enough to where I'm actually moving material off the top of each fret. I'm not going to recrown these frets. I'm just trying to take, you know, a little bit off the top of each fret as far as its dirt and everything on there, and it helps to kind of smooth these babies out a little bit too. I see you got some on the first couple of frets. Overall the frets look really good. Let me move this way a little. Yeah, overall the frets look pretty good, except the only place I see any fret damage is, it's not really damage, but the strings, they put little dents in there. And so sometimes the first couple of frets, if I rub these things hard enough, you can rub those dents right out of there, but that's not my goal. My goal is to just try to clean these things up a little bit. Alright, so I have a little bottle of guitar polish, and it says Esteban on it, but I put a couple of drops on this stuff. And this guitar polish, I didn't actually buy this guitar polish because I would hate to buy anything with Esteban's name on it. But this came in a guitar bag, a gig bag. I bought a guitar, and that was already in there. And I'm, oh wow, hey, freebie. So I figure I might as well use it while I got it. And so, yep. Kind of shining it up a little bit. Beautiful color guitar. The Lake Placid blue is very popular. The Gibson, what are they? The Gibson Thunderbird comes in this color. Lake Placid blue is a very popular color. So I shine it up. It's got a little chip right there where the paint has a funny little chip in it right there. That's too bad. But Lake Placid blue, what a great color. Yep, Richie Sambora. He didn't go too crazy. It's not like his signature Strat was like a Steve Vai gem with, you know, all kinds of inlays and fancy stuff. I think he does do a neck on one of his guitars, though, that has the stars, right? You guys seen that? But this just has your standard dots on there. They're not clay, they just look like a standard white. Nothing too fancy about it. The fret ends feel pretty good. Maybe a little rough stuff right up in here. Most guys don't feel the frets right there. But yeah, I'm not going to do anything with those fret ends. Those things feel pretty good. Today's string of choice is 10 through 46, and these are the Dunlop nickel strings. I'm a Dunlop dealer, and these are probably my most affordable strings that I have in the store. And you guys would be surprised on how many guys come in and they ask for strings, and they say, hey, what's the cheapest pack of strings you got? Because guitar strings are guitar strings, right? And so I always sell a lot of these Dunlops just because of that. Cheapest guitar strings on the market. Although I did get some Fender strings that are pretty darn reasonable too. So one thing that's always good to do is, before you put the new strings on, you always kind of want to tighten up your tuners. And a lot of guys love this tool right here. I honestly kind of hate this thing, but it does work sorta to a certain extent. But honestly, I kind of hate this tool. I think I'd rather use a socket or maybe even a pair of pliers. So another good thing, I put one string on here and then I figured, well, I might as well show you. Another good thing to do is to put a Phillips screwdriver in the end here. Not a lot. Now, not all tuners have these Phillips screws that hold these on here, but it's always a good idea. See, that one's kind of loose. You see how loose that one is? So you can just tighten these up. It's always a good idea. Makes them nice, it makes them stiff, and it's a perfect thing to do to help in your setup. Okay, so the neck on this thing looks nice and flat. I put my gauge on it right here, and it's looking good, but you know, to do a truss rod adjustment on this thing, the Allen wrench, because of the bar that goes across here that holds the strings down, you can't even get the Allen wrench in there. So, you know, the neck's nice and flat. I don't need to do a truss rod adjustment. But if I did, I'd have to move this bar out of the way. Okay, so I got the strings on here, and I'm seeing that the Floyd is kind of setting up kind of just a little bit high. You want it to be nice and flat across there and sitting on the body. So I am going to tighten the 3 springs back here by tightening these 2 screws up a little bit. Okay, let's see how that looks. I'm going to say a little bit more. Okay, come on. Camera's in my way. Here we go. There you go. These things will strip out easy. These are the hardest screws to actually get. How come I can't stick that in there? There we go. There we go. And I just got my snark tuner on this thing. I haven't got all these, guess it's okay to cut these babies off now. Some guys will put a string on and cut the ends off really quick. Other guys will wait until they're all on there. There you go. And now another thing, guys. All these guys that tell you how to do guitar hacks and how to fix stuff. When I was showing you guys to tighten these little ends up here, right here on the G string, here's what happened. I tightened those little things, and the little white, you see that right there? The little white piece that goes in here, I guess what I did is I over tightened that a little bit. Now these are old, this guitar's from the 90s, and it broke the little piece of white plastic that goes right there in the tuner. Now the tuner is still functioning, but like I said, every time you do something on a guitar, it doesn't mean it's going to be a guarantee that it's going to be perfect. You tighten these things up, and what that did is it put a little too much stress on that plastic washer, broke that thing right in half. Okay, so I was having a little problem with the low E string coming out of here when I tuned it up. Tried to stretch the string, the little part in there, and I kind of call it the brick. But that little part in there, I went ahead and changed one. And when you put them in there, sometimes it's tough to get the old ones out. But when you put them in there, do you see how it has this little hole kind of indentation right there? That part goes down towards the bottom. And then this thing that you tighten up with your Allen wrench, it sticks right in, the end of this sticks right into that little hole right there. So yeah, I went ahead and replaced that little piece right there. So now, hopefully, it won't come flying out of there when I tune this thing up. There we go. So we'll go ahead and we'll put the locking nuts back in there. And then just tighten them down, get them snug, don't over torque anything. That's what I did wrong on that tuner right there. And then every good repair guy or luthier will clean the guitar up so that it looks better than when it came in. This one didn't have a back plate on it. Well, but again, man, I love this color. The only little thing that I see that's kind of a flaw, and they all do it right here. You get that little stress crack right there in the finish, in the neck pocket. Happens to a lot of them. Doesn't decrease the value of the guitar, in my opinion. Some guys would argue that. And they try to talk you down on the price. But in my opinion, that doesn't make any difference because it does not affect the playability of the guitar. Let's go plug it in. Hey man, great little restring project. I love days when stuff like this comes in and I get to play around with it. I get to experiment with it. I get to put new strings on it. I get to make a video so you guys can watch this along with me. And there you guys have it. Richie Sambora, you know, great guitar player, legendary Hall of Famer. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to get a ZIMM'S Guitars t-shirt, there's going to be a link in the description below. Catch you guys later.
See ya.